Looks like it's sticking.
What's up, everybody? We are live. Hello. How is everybody doing today?
Welcome to our lovers quarrel about what music we were going to watch. That's hence why we're here at 6:01 and not 6.
This is great.
Oh, this is what you're going for?
This is what you had.
Oh, no.
It's going to be great, y'all. Welcome to Facebook Live with the Antonellis. How's it going? Cheers to everybody that's joining. I got my sparkling water here tonight. How's everybody doing? This is so awesome. Great to see you again, Katie. Hey, Rachel. Thanks for being on.
Okay.
Hey, Jennifer. This was the one you had originally chosen by life.
I put La Vie en Rose,
Yeah.
but I think this is like the Latinx version of La Vie
Yeah.
en Rose, which is hilarious.
Usually-
But this shows that we put things off to the last minute.
To the last 30 seconds today.
Yeah,
That's
you're
all
right,
right,
you're
y'all. You're here. Live and unscripted with the Antonellis. You know, we're not here for the French intro song. We're here for all the delicious cheese, so that'll be in the background. You are awesome. How are you feeling tonight?
I feel fantastic. I'm super excited to be here, be doing our French tasting. Thank you all for buying tickets.
This is awesome.
I think we sold out at just under 150 tickets. We would have gone to 150, but we ran out of cheese. So, you know, notes of a cheese shop owner.
We knew we were going to run out of cheese.
Don't promote the cheese that you're running out of.
But it's going to taste so good.
There's this whole like terraform on cheese and all that stuff. So anyway, we are excited for what we have on the plate. And those of you who are with us, if you are just chiming in and this is your first time ever, tell us in the comments.
Whoa! Double screen issues.
Oh.
Whoa!
I was is that La Vie en Rose?
You know, we've got 4 different screens going on behind us. And we are operating with multiple Zoom calls and all that kind of stuff. So this one just had the speaker on. That's all that happened there.
I love that we are centered tonight in thirds. With me a third, you a third, and the plant gets a full third.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, Plant.
So,
what's up, buddy?
Welcome in, you guys. Please, and gals, and people, everyone, welcome in. It's Eric's birthday. We can all sing happy birthday later. Tell us what you're celebrating. Tell us that this is your first time joining us.
Wow, we got a couple
on
first timers already. This is awesome.
Who's first timers? Let's give a shout out.
We got Carson is a first time.
Woo! Greg, first timer.
This is awesome.
Yay! Hi, Elio.
You said a happy birthday already. This is great, y'all. Thank you so much for coming on and being a part of this experience. Kendall and I are imagining that we're sitting in a cafe right on the. Where are we sitting tonight?
Let's sit in Annecy.
Okay, I love that.
On what are the canals?
On the canals in Annecy.
And it's they're letting the water in. They're about to close off the canals.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay,
that's one of our all-time favorite memories. So, one of the things that Kendall and I do.
Hi, Jamie.
Hey.
Hi, Kay.
One of the things Kendall and I do almost every night is we tell each other where we're going to meet each other in our dreams.
Oh my gosh, we've never told anybody that before.
Awesome.
Not that I'm embarrassed. It's just like, hello, y'all. Welcome to date night.
Welcome to date night, and one of our favorite places.
As we're going to bed, we do say, all right, where do you want to meet in our dreams? And yes, it's cheesy, but it also is twofold. Usually as entrepreneurs who are working from home full time, it's hard to turn it off, as I'm sure many of you can attest to. And so I have to physically transport my brain. What am I going to think about? And my daughter, when I always say sweet dreams, it's hilarious. She's 6 and she's like, Mom, you always say that like I can control my dreams. I can't control what I'm going to dream. And I say, I know, but you can have thoughts in your head as you go to bed that like sets the tone.
Yeah.
Not like tell me the scariest story you ever
And one
had.
of the places that we so commonly go to is Annecy. We had one of the greatest 2 days of our lives as a couple.
We could tell that
Annecy.
later.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We first got to get cheese in bellies. We have a 14th anniversary going on with the Grams. That's awesome, y'all. And so hopefully as we go through this tasting tonight, we'll get to share some of our favorite French memories. You can share some of yours. But we're going to eat some amazing cheese with some really awesome pairings. And so this is a really special evening. And I think we should start talking about
Well, let me just do
taste.
a quick run through. If you are watching this and wondering, wow, who chimes in to watch the Antonellis eat cheese and not eat it? Just know that here in Austin locally, we offer this as a cheese plate pickup. So we have over 130 people tonight also eating a plate of French cheese with us. And then if you are not in, so if you're in Austin, join us for another tasting. And if you are not in Austin, know that we are now shipping cheese classes in a box. And so we have a Cheese 101, and we just this week launched, you're getting the secret, I haven't told anybody yet, but we just launched our American cheese class in a box. So you can do 2 different ones. So that being said,
awesome.
We are a 10-year-old business here in Austin, Texas. I'm Kendall.
And I'm John.
We're the Antonellis. We opened Antonelli's Cheese Shop after a honeymoon decision to quit our jobs. It was more like John said, I quit my job, and I was like, whatever, kid. And then here we are.
And here we are. You didn't say whatever, kid. You said, what are you going to do? And I said something in cheese. And
here we are.
You know, we are there's 25th wedding anniversary happening here.
Wow,
the 14th.
way to go, Francis and Lloyd.
For those of you that have been on honeymoons before, typically you don't tell your new partner that you're going to quit your job when you get back. Stability is a nice thing. Anyway, she was awesome. She let me kind of spend 2 years pursuing my passion. One of those momentous moments during that 2 years that really solidified the experience for cheese in my life was getting to go and travel to France. And so anytime I get to talk about it, it brings great pride and great this sense of real ownership and emotion to the experience. And so I'm thrilled to be here. I can share the stories of how I got lost in a city driving stick shift for the first time in my life and cried in a parking garage, or I can tell the story about how we stumbled upon one of the all-time greatest cheeses on the planet and had a great memory there. So we'll probably lean towards the real positive ones.
You could also tell the story of how you were invited into these old railroad tunnels that they've now turned into cheese caves. So many French cheese stories. But we are here, we're a day late, celebrating Bastille Day. So what is Bastille Day? And then we'll get into it. But I just felt like we put it in the title. We want to make sure this is about cultural appreciation and not appropriation. So Bastille Day, 1789, is that right year? I don't do numbers very well. 1789.
Same year as our alma
That's why
mater.
I was like, I can remember this. Georgetown
Right.
University, 1789. Okay. So it commemorates the national French holiday, or Fête Nationale. Sorry for everybody who speaks French. I was a Spanish girl growing up, speaking Spanish or Castellano. But that being said, it was celebrating the mass public's storming of the Bastille. So the end of the monarchy in the Bastille. It was often where political prisoners were held, people who were held and accused of different political beliefs, but they had no proof against them. And it was where they also stored a lot of ammunition and gunpowder. So the people of France decided to revolt, and this was them storming the Bastille. And so it's known as International France Day, or in France, it's Fête Nationale. And they still celebrate it every single year. And then what were some other dates I looked up? Because this is fun for us because we get to learn more. And so let me see some other things. I'm reading all my notes on the side. So, there were over 200 attackers that came in with some French guards who had been defectors. Actually, there were more. 200 attackers lost their lives, and then only one defender. But the weird part is, seeing all that was happening, they called a truce, and then something still happened, and there's a historical disagreement about what happened, but then somehow people still died, even though they were trying to call a truce before the loss of lives. So on August 4th, feudalism was abolished, and on August 26th was the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen. So that is what the French, a piece of what, in my research, of what folks worldwide, French people worldwide and in France are celebrating when they celebrate Bastille Day. So I just wanted to give that little history lesson, since we talked about it, Bastille Day celebration of what we're doing today. Y'all, we're tasting some French
And we're
cheeses.
celebrating French cheeses tonight. It's French cheeses. Wow. This is going to be such an awesome tasting. My team put together all the flavors. They chose all of the accompaniments. And so Kendall and I are going to be going through this for the first time alongside y'all. So one of the things that we want you to pay attention tonight to is what happens on your palate. So obviously the plate looks stunning. You're using your eyes. We eat first with our eyes. We will listen to the food. If If it talks to you, you can come and hang out with Kendall and I. It talks to us, but we'll be listening for sounds like crunches. Hey, now we haven't even gotten to that part yet. There was a crunch. You hear the crunch. Without a crunch, some foods just won't taste good or experience good. I will also feel everything, play with your food, touch it, and then we also want to talk about the mouth and the nose. So the tongue picks up 5 senses: salty, sweet, sour, bitter, and umami. And what I want you to do, so we can isolate that. Take up one of these corn nuts, these Quicos, pinch your nose, and start chewing on it. And now, Kendall, it's your turn.
Okay.
Go on.
Tapping in. So your nose is pinched, you're chewing it, and what are we trying to do? What do you taste? Normally, you just taste salty.
A little salt and umami.
A little salt and umami is what John is getting.
Yep.
You are master of all trades and you do that all at the same time. Keep breathing, but out of your mouth. All right. So when you think you know what that tastes like, release your nose and breathe out.
I love that.
So the whole point of that experiment that we do at the beginning of every class is to show that flavor isn't actually just taste. Taste, sweet, salt, bitter, umami, and sour. Flavor is really what happens in your olfactory, and that's where all your thousands and millions of taste memories happen, and takes you back and transports you to that memory. It's also when you think, this smells like rolling down a hill and, I don't know, or sitting by the lake in Tennessee at this time of day. That is all through your olfactory. So when you're eating this tonight, we want you to eat it just as mindfully as you would when you go to a wine tasting or a beer tasting, and you take it all in with your 5 senses. You know that you pick it up, at least at the beginning of a tasting, and you're not guzzling it down. You're looking at it. You're twirling it. You're looking at the viscosity and thickness. You smell it. What's the aroma, the bouquet? Then when you sip it, you gurgle it, which is the Strapaggio method of aerating it. Why? Because you're trying to take it into your olfactory. Then once you swallow, the work isn't done. You are thinking about it. What's the finish? How long is it there? That lets you know about the age and the flavor profile. So we just want you to do all the same thing with cheese. This is so much labor that goes onto this plate.
Labor.
And so we think cheese should not be, I should say, our goal is to make cheese buying fun and unpretentious and eat it how you want to. That being said, we also think that the labor on this plate and the love on this plate deserves a little more dignity than just being cubed and stuck in a toothpick and eaten mindlessly. So tonight we're going to mindfully eat it, get to know these makers, get to know these flavors, and now you know that flavor is taste plus aroma. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounded like
Sorry, that was with like a kid. I don't know, interaction.
We got
at
it.
a time.
And
hi, Barbara.
For those of
Hi,
you
Alex.
that are drinking something, let us know what you're drinking, and we can potentially talk about pairings and things as we go through the evening. I did see somebody drinking a cider from Texas Keeper. Great choice. We
Bubbles
love
are
them.
always good with cheese. Any kind of bubbles.
And then Allison, congratulations on celebrating soon to become foster parents. That's awesome.
Wow,
Thanks for your
that
service.
is so
How
huge.
cool.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for expanding your family and your hearts that way. And if you see us looking around, it's because we've got 4 different screens. We're following chats so we can be as interactive as possible. We're looking at ourselves in multiple places. And so every once in a while, if it looks like we're cuckoo, one, you should know that we are both cuckoo we own it and we're proud of that.
We should probably add like a child monitor too, so we can make sure our kids are safe during this 1 hour. You never know what the kids are going to get up to.
They're rotting their brains on devices. They love when we have guided tastings live because it means they get screen time.
We've got some cava, some rosé wine.
Hey,
All right,
Katie.
y'all.
Hey, Joe.
So
Okay.
one of my favorite proverbs that I've read from French culture is a meal without cheese is like a day without sunshine.
Oh,
and
so romantic.
I personally agree with that. As a cheese lover, I agree that having a little bite of cheese every day brings a smile to my face.
And then there's a super famous quote by Charles de Gaulle, who was a French soldier and writer and statesman and what basically birthed the France's Fifth Movement. He said something like, how can you govern a nation that has 246, was it 246?
I don't know, I think it's every time I hear that quote, it changes.
like-
It could be 300.
It's like,
could be-
how can you govern a nation that has a cheese for every day? And so the point being that, yes, France is known for all these different types of cheeses, and we get to explore 7 tonight. Yeah. I don't know why I keep doing the yaw thing. I'm just excited.
I'm super excited. Those of you that are following at home, this is kind of what the plate looks like. We're going to be starting with the white brinded cheese that is closest to the blue. That's going to be our 12 o'clock position tonight. We're going to go around clockwise. I'll do my best to remember to type in what we're pairing and everything into the chat feature. But just so you know where we're starting, it's going to be at that 12 o'clock. You will be full by the time 7 o'clock rolls around. I know it's 6:15. You're like, oh, let me eat more. The Cuicos are on your plate so you can snack as well as the bread from Easy Tiger Bake Shop, our partner. We were their first ever client in, I think, 2012
Before they had wholesale. Yeah.
And we've been selling their bread ever since, and it's so delicious that okay.
Yeah.
Let's do this thing. Let's rock. Y'all are great. I'm now thinking about Annecy, and well, I'll tell that story later. It was awesome.
And if you can't tell, I'm really pepped up, and it's because we don't normally drink caffeine. And today I had a coffee and I had a Coke because I was feeling tired, and now I feel very wired for our French celebration of cheeses.
Cheers, my love.
Okay.
Cheers to y'all. Let's dive in. We're going to start with cheese number 1 tonight.
All right. So cheese number 1 looks like this perfect little piece of white pie, if you will. I'll let John talk about the cheese, but I'm going to talk about the style of cheese. If you want to go more in-depth on any of the styles of cheese, take one of our Cheese 101 classes. But I'm going to throw some words out there for you right now. So this is a bloomy rind cheese. You know, because it has this thin white rind all the way outside. It's a surface ripened cheese, which means you're trying to grow an environment on the outside that affects the way the inside will age. And I actually have a perfect piece to show y'all. I hope I can get it where, okay, you show it. So, aha! Good
Nailed
angle,
it.
honey. Nailed it. Okay, so what this mold does is it breaks down the proteins inside the cheese as it ages. So when this cheese was younger, it had all this inner chalky paste. As it ages, it gets creamier and creamier. So technically, brie is ripe when that cream line has developed all the way through. So it doesn't mean that this piece is bad. Keep showing it.
Keep showing it.
It doesn't mean this piece is bad. What it means is this piece is just a little underripe. Once you cut it, you can't stick it back together and hope it's going to age. You should just eat it. But this is a little bit underripe, and when it's perfectly ripe, the cream line will be all the way throughout. But again, what's doing that? It's the mold on the outside that derives from Penicillium camemberti, and that's breaking down those proteins in the cheese to create this cream line, or creamy cheese. So that's our style.
So yeah, and in France, they oftentimes they have all the roles separated in cheese making, and one of the key roles is affinage, or aging, cheese maturation. And so one individual or a team will be responsible for taking the wheels after they've been made and taking them through their life cycle all the way up to getting them into a store and into somebody's belly. And one of the coolest things that we did when I was interning with Hervé Mons in France, just outside of Lyon, was you basically, all these small wheels of cheese need to be aged to the right texture. And what you do is you basically you walk into a cave-like environment and you pull out a tray of cheeses. There might be 20 of pieces on an actual rack, and you touch each side and you feel for how it's aging on the inside. And so these affineurs just have the feel and the touch, and they know when to sell something, when something's not aging fast enough, when it's aging too slow. And so it's a really amazing...
The other part of that that's amazing is to think about export. It's a whole nother level of consideration, because they have to know it well enough. If they wait till it's perfect there, then it'll be past due by the time it gets to us. So they have to know it and know how it's going to age, either by boat or by plane, to get to us, that then by the time it gets to us, it's in the ideal state. So part of the aging they know is still going to happen in transit, under stressed conditions, and so how to get it to us in the best way that they can.
So Christina says she got a smaller portion than the one that Kendall got. What we do is...
Oh, did you see my blue though? My blue is the teeniest sliver ever. So our goal is that everything kind of evens out.
And we hear there's human error. We have team members cutting 130 pieces of each one of these cheeses.
So today they cut over 1,000 pieces of cheese.
Portioning off each one of these and getting them into your trunk as early as 1 o'clock. It's an amazing feat. And so there is definitely some of that. And you will be thrilled and full by the time you're finished.
And we always want to make it better. So at the end of this experience, if you feel like it's not what you wanted, then please let us know and we'll work to make it right. But our goal is, our team does identify, oops, smaller piece of cheese on this, give a bigger piece of cheese on this, and we hope it all evens out.
Sure.
I do see a question, Stephanie, about triple cream, but we're going to
come to that. We're going to come to that. So let's talk about Brie de Nangy. So this cheese comes from the village of Tournan and Brie, just outside of...
As you're talking about it, when you first eat it, I want you to eat the inside first and then a bite with the rind, because I know people are already eating it.
That's true. They
Now
absolutely. I almost ate it before I was told to.
You can talk now.
So the classic product that's made in Europe is Brie de Meaux. This is sort of the icon of this style of cheese. This is what everybody looks for. It's the gold standard. Brie de Meaux is the name. It's Brie from the village of Meaux, and that is a name-controlled cheese. And one of the things that happened, a name-controlling organization dictated that a cheese was culturally, economically significant, so they assigned provenance to a very particular set of rules, geographic location, types of milk, things like that. And we're going to eat a couple AOC cheeses, Appellation Origine Contrôlée, cheeses that have been designated that. But Brie de Meaux was designated that in 1980. Kendall's laughing at me because pronouncing French words, not speaking the language.
I'm just like, own it and make it sexier more quick. Like, Appellation Origine Contrôlée.
Yeah, sure. Fine, whatever. I'll eat so you can
So
continue.
please forgive us to everybody who speaks French. Sure,
Yeah,
we'll do
well,
our best.
Until I meet the person that created that name and tells it to me directly, I can pronounce it, butcher it as much as I want, as long as I'm talking about it.
And as long as we're trying. That's all that matters. Okay.
And so, in 1980, Brie de Meaux was given that designation. And one of the stipulations in that was that it had to be made from raw milk. And now, Brie de Meaux is a product that is aged for less than 60 days. And why that's important is that in the United States, raw milk cheese needs to be aged 60 days or more in order to be sold to the public. And so legally, we cannot import and sell Brie de Meaux, the gold standard. And so
if you've only ever eaten brie in the United States, you haven't had real brie. Because real brie is made with raw milk, and we can only get pasteurized versions, which are made for the American market. Why one or the other? Some advocates will say that raw milk cheeses have more flavor, more terroir, that you can taste what the animals were tasting. I would say it gives it, the raw milk often gives it more of this like funk and of the animal, amongst other things. But there are also delicious, amazing pasteurized cheeses too. However, definitely when traveling, people always ask us like, oh, I'm going on this trip. Not right now. Post-pandemic, when everybody's traveling and you say, what should I eat? One, I will always tell you, go find a farmer's market and just go up to the farmer's market and start eating cheese there and purchasing cheese there. That being said, they have so many cheese shops that are amazing. Is that a dog? I'm walking on our table. Fill a tail. So I was like, are you hitting me? Did I say something wrong? No, it's a dog.
No, it's a dog.
So go into a cheese shop. And yes, there are seasonal cheeses you should try throughout the year, which we can talk about. But always go try a brie and a camembert, because they are typically younger cheeses but made with raw milk, and you can't get that full expression here in the United States.
And so I brought that up because you're eating Brie de Nangy. You're not eating Brie de Meaux, or Brie de Melon is the other version that is name controlled. Brie de Nangy is not, again, because of the pasteurization laws. This is a version, though, that doesn't come across the same way as Brie de Meaux does. We also have sold another cheese called Fromage de Meaux by the same producer. This is Rougère in the Ile-de-France region. We sold it before, and it comes across it with this mushroomy vegetal note. Brie de Nangy is aged on some rye straw mats, and there's a little bit more yeastiness to it than that mushroom vegetal. And so
stay on task. Just
staying
because
on
I'm
task.
laughing at the comments, you stay on task.
So these are aged in local caves for about 2 months. We, as a team, really love Brie de Nangy, so it's become one of our staples. It's more, again, the wheel that I'm tasting a different wheel than Kendall. They're small, and so we've had to cut so many for this class. So we're each tasting different wheels. Mine is quite yeasty tonight, and just sort of buttery. And what's also cool about this cheese...
Mine is more mushroomy.
Okay. But I love the way that mat really plays forward.
Yeah, it's the mat. It's like that wood mat.
And I'll taste yours in a minute. But one of the things that to note is that this cheese almost went extinct because of World War II. A number of the cheeses that we're going to eat tonight sort of went through a similar life cycle. But the company Rougère that we get our these softer, soft ripened French cheeses from brought the cheese back in the 80s and has had a lot of success. And I think it's a delicious cheese, and I've been enjoying it. We've been selling it, I think, now for about 8 of the 10 years that we've been in business.
It's just
crowd friendly.
A good, hey, I want a brie. This is a brie, and it's not too aggressive or pungent. So the reason I was laughing is because Mim asked, how did you survive in France with your accent? One thing that we did say when we went over there, and when you went, is j'ai étudié le fromage. So just, I studied cheese. I studied cheese. So I'm sure we looked like typical ignorant Americans, except that we could say, I studied cheese everywhere we went, and that just opened doors for us, and people just let us in to see whatever they were doing in the cheese world.
And I'll also say that I have great language skills. I have the nonverbal cues that I can use that I'm very successful with. And in a foreign country, I often find that if you appreciate culture, you can actually connect really well over food. And so when I was getting into cheese, people kept asking me, are you going to learn French? Are you going to learn French? And I said to them, it'll take me a lifetime to learn French, and it'll take me a lifetime to learn cheese. And if I appreciate cheese and that culture behind it enough, it'll all work out. And it did. And so there are...
so there, Mim. We know Mim. We can do that to her.
Yeah. And the other thing to note is that when you're walking into an environment that you're not quite sure and comfortable with, if you don't want eyeballs looking back at you, understand the culture. In France, buy a baguette, stick it under your arm, take a bite off the top. Nobody will look sideways at you ever again.
Okay, literally, when I got there, John had already been studying and working for 2 weeks. And then I got there, we were at a farmer's market, and John was like, first thing, buy a baguette, put it under our arms. And
Nobody will look at you. Yeah, we're...
Okay, so we know it took us this long to get to one, but now we're in the groove. We've set you up, and we're ready to start rolling. So you've had a bloomy rind cheese, and we talked about pasteurization. Oh, we paired it with dried apricots today.
And I'll type that in.
Okay. So we intentionally paired that with a Turkish dried apricot. So as we move to our second tasting, we talked about pasteurization. Where does pasteurization come from? It comes from Louis Pasteur, who in the mid to late 1800s was curious, as any French foodie would be, about how beer and wine, specifically beer and wine, don't go bad. So he started out studying those, and then stumbled upon milk and lactic acid, and the fermentation turning those lactic acid into sugars, turning milk sugars
into lactic acid.
Thank you.
Lactose.
ABC.
Yeah.
So that's where I started it. So basically, he discovered fermentation and was able to define what it was. And in that process, that's where pasteurization comes from. And so then how do we end up getting to pasteurization in the U.S.? It's a different, longer story we can talk about later. But I just wanted to give credit to Louis Pasteur, who actually was a huge foodie.
Yeah.
All right.
And it saved countless lives. Pasteurization certainly plays an important role in the food system. Otherwise, you can't feed everybody. And so, so now we are on to cheese number 2.
Okay, triple creme. Stephanie had asked about the triple creme.
Do you want to start with that? How do you want to roll into? Should we just let them taste a little bit?
So taste
just so you can
inside.
Experience the decadence.
Don't taste the rind yet.
Just the inside.
We're all fans of using our fingers and hands. This one though is literally like butter. So I'm going to use my spoon and have a little taste inside. To be a triple creme, it means it has over 75% butter fat. So oftentimes they're adding cream back into it in the make process. This is a second bloomy rind, so you can tell by both of them, they both have that thin white skin. We often get asked to eat the rind or not, and those who have been with us on many tastings know that we're fans of the puns and say no rind left behind, or a rind is a terrible thing to waste. That being said, my personal stance is taste the rind. If you like it, eat it. If you don't eat it. Life is too short for those rules. But yes, the rind is part of the cave aging or environment experience. So.
Enjoy that bite. It is wonderful. It is decadent. This is Brie Sovereign, and this is actually made from the same producer that we just tasted.
The salt on that tonight is like the salt is so pronounced compared to the Brie.
So they're likely using a very similar milk source and creating such a distinct flavor profile. So Brie Sovereign is a soft ripened triple cream cow's milk cheese, and that means that over 75% of the butter of the dry matter is in fat, and that's as close as cheese will ever get to becoming butter. So this is like room temperature butter, y'all. Add a little extra salt to it, and it's basically salted
I
butter.
can't stop.
You don't have to, and that's the beauty of it.
Can't stop, won't stop.
You'll notice it's got that nice white rind, just like the previous one. So the folks at Rouzier have a skill set. They understand these white molded cheeses and how to manage them. And so here, they're actually adding what I read was creme fraiche to these wheels to give it even a more luscious flavor profile. But what was cool is that this cheese was created in 1890 by the Dubuc family, and it was a couple different names. But in the 1930s, one of the great cheesemongers in the country of France renamed it. It was Henri Androuet. There are Androuet cheese shops throughout the country that you can stop in, but he renamed it after Brillat Savarin. So Brillat Savarin was the original gastronome, is kind of what they say, like the first lover of all food, or documenter, or writer, philosopher around food. He wrote the Physiology of Taste, I think, and has some amazing quotes. If you ever want to look up quotes about eating and food, this guy, he would have been my best friend around the dinner table for sure. And so
That would be a good one. You know how you always get asked at those interviews if you could sit at the dinner table with somebody living or dead? I'm always trying to look for an atypical answer that isn't like, I don't know, past president or something. Brillat Savarin would be
Brillat Savarin, and they would be like, well, you're not hired because we don't know who that is. But one of his great quotes was, tell me what you eat and I'll tell you what you are. And so, like, just look up other quotes from him. He's great. So they renamed this cheese in honor of him. It's become a world-renowned success. These triple cream styles, they're not everywhere. Not everybody is making them, but because in order to make them, you have to take cream from something else, some extra component of fat, and put it into the milk. So if you don't have access to that, you can't make this style of cheese. And so anyway, this is stupendous. Saying best cheese I've ever had. We're getting a couple of those.
Okay, so
Clearly
we paired
decadent,
this tonight with Jam Nation's Berry Last Straw. So it's a strawberry jam. Jillian is the maker. We met her at the Good Food Awards, Good Food Foundation in California, which promotes foods that are authentic, tasty, and responsible. And they have their own specific classifications for what meets that. But I love it because the cheese is tasting salty tonight to me in a delicious way. And so the sweetness of the jam pairs beautifully with it. Like these two things just smeared on like fresh toast or biscuits. I rarely eat all my cheese in a sitting while we're eating it, and I've kind of licked my area.
I love it, and I got to talk so much.
I know. So y'all, if you've ever chimed in, you know that I'm normally talking more, and John is over there eating, and that's how he gets to eat his whole plate. I realize the key to me getting to eat my whole plate is I just talk less. You work more, and I'll eat.
That sounds good.
All right, Tag, you're it. So we're ready. I'll start introducing the next style of cheese. We're now moving to this one in the cup. For those of you who saw my promotions on social media, and the reason we had to limit it to 130 tickets is because that's all we had of this cheese in house. So this is Epoisse. It is this.
Should I get it
size.
so I can show them?
Oh yeah, go show them. We have one that's it's accidentally aging in our fridge. So don't do that. Don't buy it. We always say go to your cheese shop and only get what you're going to eat within 7 to 10 days. Why? Because cheeses absorb fridge. So fridge funk, milk carton, egg carton, they will start to absorb that. And if we get what you're going to eat soon.
If we had listened to our own advice last week, and we would have had
I over-purchased for 4th of July.
We would have had one extra. We could have added a few more people to class. So this is how this cheese comes in this awesome box. This box is one of the greatest inventions on the planet. And it revolutionized cheese. So one of the things that I want to point out here is you see this symbol here on the side. This is the appellation, the origin. This is the protection. If you see that on a product, you're in good hands. That means that it's been authenticated as being the real deal.
Also, you'll see on these, it's just cheese science is cool. This plastic wrap is perforated, so there are holes, which is allowing the cheese to breathe, if you will. So it needs to give off. If it was complete, that's why you shouldn't. It's not that you shouldn't buy cheese that's plastic wrapped. It's just that You want to buy cheese that's only recently been plastic wrapped because the cheese needs to give off and it needs to breathe.
Y'all, that is stinky.
All right, so why
I love
you
it.
look at it visually, it's orange. Why is it bright orange? This is a washed rind cheese. Typically, washed rind cheeses are known for being washed in a brine solution, so some sort of saltwater solution, or it can be in beer, wine, or Marc de Bourgogne.
Yeah, and this is made with the Marc de Bourgogne, and it says it on here, and it has to be in order to get that symbol on the side. What is so cool about this cheese was, again, going back to the history of World War II. So in like around 1900, you can eat it. If you might want to avoid the rind at first because it's a very pungent cheese.
You would buy it without the rind, then with the rind.
Yeah, and then go from there. Jamie just asked a question and it threw me off, so I'll answer it and then I'll come back. But Jamie, what if we keep the cheese in the cheese box or something in the fridge? Again, modern refrigeration isn't intended to age cheese properly. A lot of these should be aging and living at a higher temperature than what is our refrigerator. So the best thing you can do, cheese shops will typically get these at the right age. So let them turn the inventory and then you get it from the cheese shop and eat it when you're ready to eat it.
And you can also often ask cheese shops, again, it's more challenging during a pandemic, but you can ask them like, I like mine more ripe or I like mine younger. And so we'll know because we'll feel it. And if it's firmer, we know it's younger. If it's really mushy, we know it needs to be eaten pretty quickly. And then we'll also say, are you going to eat this within a day or two? Or are you going to sit on it a week? And that'll help with what we decide to sell you. So
I just noticed that Tony Linder said that we are the two of the effing cutest people ever. Tony is the individual, his company is the one that basically built all of the things in our shop and all of the tables in our event space.
The table that we are eating on?
Oh, the table that we're eating on. Anyway, Litmus design, amazing.
Probably most of your favorite restaurants they have designed inside, so we love you, Tony.
I'm going to talk about the cheese before I put it away, and I've got a bum foot, so maybe... So, what's super cool about this cheese, in 1900, around then, there were about 300 farms producing this cheese, and after World War I, there were 0, which is mind-boggling that it dropped that far down. Epoisse was first created in the 1500s, where basically it was dubbed the king of all cheese. You keep laughing. I love it. You're doing awesome.
I'm sorry. That time I laughed. We are all over the place tonight. That time I laughed because you can totally see that I'm wearing shorts. Once I sat down.
It's like being on the news, right? The fact that you have clothes on at all.
I just had to own it because I know
great.
Everybody else out there saw it. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I dressed from here up.
So this cheese was called the king of all cheeses by none other than Brillat Savarin. So again, another reference to the gastronome. And so to me, it was mind-boggling when I found out that there were no producers of this. And so in 1956, Robert and Simone, his wife, Berthaud, they got a recipe from their aunt and started to make it for themselves just in their house. And they ended up just small amounts and for self-consumption, and they were running a grocery store, a little grocer. Then they started selling it there, basically single-handedly bringing this cheese back from the edge.
Wow.
And so for 60 years, they've been the leaders. They were the ones that really drove home getting the AOC, AOP designation. And so pretty much we can thank this one man and wife team, this wife and husband team.
Thank you.
That brought it all back for us. This is one of those cheese that I have not ever been in this situation, but the lure is that it is banned from public transportation in France because this one can get super stinky.
So the washed rind styles of cheeses are known as the stinky, pungent ones. Oftentimes the smell is more aggressive than the taste. This one is a pretty aggressive cheese.
Loving it though.
We paired it tonight. Yeah, so if you eat just the cream, it's perfect to me. If you eat the rind with it, you get a little more. It might be too far for some people. But tonight, is this the Boost Time cherries?
This is the Boost Time cherries.
So with the rind, with the pairing we put on the plate, it's actually perfect to me. Remember, taste buds and our tongues are individual to each one of us. So when somebody says this is too salty or this is too funky, you don't have to agree with them because your tongue is like your own individual fingerprint, and it's not replicable anywhere else. And you taste what you taste. So that being said,
so good.
Paired with the Booze Time cherries, which these are made here in Texas, originally produced by Lori Krieger of Taste Elevated, just north of San Antonio and Castroville, with the Booze Time cherries, and we did the booze, or our team paired because we didn't choose the pairings. I think our team paired it, Casey, to put the booze with that Marc de Bourgogne that is washed on this cheese. And that actually softens some of the aggressiveness, and then it just brings out the fruity funk.
And Marc de Bourgogne is a pumice brandy from Burgundy. Anyway, one of my favorite memories in...
Okay, Barbara, you may think Epoisse is stinky. It is, but it is not like durian. I mean, durian is like a step further. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and that's why it's just one of the cheeses on the plate tonight.
In my personal opinion.
Serving it all. Thank you, Barbara, for being... This is what, your like 10th class with us. You're awesome. If you still have a piece on your plate, look at the rind and notice how delicate it is. One of the things that I did in the cheese caves with Hervé Mons is one day, it was like Tuesday and Thursday, or Tuesday and Friday. Twice a week, we had to actually wash the wash rinds. And what that was making a morge. So it'd be a mixture of water and maybe vinegar or Marc de Bourgogne. And you take a paintbrush and you take that little wheel of cheese, pick it up in your hands, and brush every inch of it twice a week. And you're doing that so that the bacteria can thrive and grow. But you're just doing hundreds of these all day, every day. And you think about the labor of love that it takes to get the flavor profile right where you want it to be. It is amazing.
Yeah. So I was going to say a lot of labor of love, but your hand, sometimes people ask, what's the cost or price point in cheese? And it's not that you just make it and send it out the door. It's that it takes constant love, especially during the maturation or affinage process, which we'll talk about in some of the more aged cheeses. But just think, it has to basically, when you sell it, pay rent. If it's a 10-year cheddar, it has to pay rent for having sat on a shelf somewhere for 10 years, not bringing in income, and then for the hands that went and rotated it and flipped it and touched it all those times. So that's what you're paying for. It's not that people, and I'm pretty sure I haven't met anybody yet who's getting rich off of cheese. So, all right.
It looks like Emily's daughter, a 4-year-old, snuck in some Epoisse.
And she liked it?
And she liked it.
I love
That's
it.
Awesome.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So our next style is soft, right? Not
Semi-soft.
soft, right? Semi-soft. You know, because look, it still has a good moisture content in it, so it's bendy before it breaks. This is a natural rind cheese. I'm going to invite you to eat the natural rind. And before John talks about this cheese Chabrin, which you can go ahead and start eating it, but try the inside first and then try a bite with the rind. You can visually look at it on your plate and know that this is a goat's milk cheese because it's bright white. So goats can't process the beta carotene in grasses, whereas cows can, and sheep to a lesser extent. So theirs will be ivory. And grass-fed cow's milk cheeses will be much more yellow or deep straw hue colored. So this lets you know visually, if you ever see it, because it's an aged cheese and it's bright white, that it's a goat's milk cheese.
Oh.
All right, so we're cheating a little because this is a Basque cheese.
It tastes amazing. But it's on the French side of the border, so we call it a French cheese. Kendall and I had the privilege of visiting Onotik with our kiddos summer of June 2019. This was an awesome trip, y'all. We got to visit 14 cheesemakers, 13 of which were in Spain, but one right across the border. You drive, basically there's no, when you're driving from Spain, there's no like border crossings, there's nothing. It's just country roads, and you just drive over. You don't know when Spain ends and France begins, and you head up just a little bit into this town called Mackay, and that's where Onotik exists. It's high in the French Pyrenees. They are most known for their sheep's milk cheeses. Sheep milk in that area is really special. The sheep kind of own the land and get to move and migrate as they wish. Lots of small dairies dotting all of the hillsides all throughout. If you've had Osso Irati before, you've had another cheese from this producer. So this is their tome de chèvre. It's called Chabrin, but it's a natural rinded goat's milk cheese. If you look at the rind, you'll notice it's got this really nice looking smells a little bit like dirt. Mine smells also like olives, which I'm so excited
Like
to taste.
cave, like
Yeah.
soil.
And they are experts in making these uncooked pressed cheeses, and that's what osso rati is, and that's what this is. So they take the curds, they press them, and then that gives it this supple texture. There's a lot more moisture in it because they're not heating the milk and the curds up so high. And I just think it's an amazing product.
If you are drinking 2 different bottles tonight, I'm drinking a Sancerre. I would prefer white with the first 4, although the Marc de Bourgogne could take a lighter, fruitier red to me. Goat's milk cheeses, though, I do really love.
Watch out for a pit, y'all.
With a nice acidic white. So marrying acid and acid. But around this time is when you can also start transitioning into your lighter bodied reds as we keep moving forward. Which olives are we eating? The Luc?
Picheline.
Oh, the Picheline. Thank you. I didn't think it looked like a Luc. So we have pits in them. This is a French olive. Go ahead and give it a try. We got to keep going.
I'm breathing
I haven't
out.
had a Picheline in a while because we don't normally do them in classes.
They're so vibrant. It's so fresh. Gosh. So these were originally from Gard in South France, and then they've produced all over the world. But anyway, so I hope you love the Onotic product. I think they make amazing cheeses. They kind of really nail that uncooked pressed.
Okay, so if we had the king of cheese as a plus, however, oftentimes we refer to the king of cheese also as Parmigiano Reggiano. Now we're moving to the queen of cheese
Whoa, I love it.
with Comté.
Definitive.
All right. So a lot of times people don't know the word Comté, but they know Gruyere. So I'll let you, why don't you jump in?
Okay.
I'm going to eat. I'm enjoying the eating part of this tonight.
So this is Comté by Marcel Petit. So this was, of the 2 cheeses that I knew we were going to carry in the shop when we first opened, it was Osso Rati from the producer that we were just tasting, and then Comté. Comté is this really, again, another one of those name-controlled products that we're getting to enjoy tonight. It's really important and significant to the Jura Mountains, just north of Geneva in France. Geneva kind of kicks out a little bit, on the French side. So this used to be called Gruyère de Comté for a long time. So if you're familiar with Gruyère, you're likely familiar with Comté. You may have never had a Comté before. They used to be named very similarly, but they're more like cousins than siblings. So Essex Street is the importer that we get these from. So Jason Hines and his team go 10 times a year to taste batches of this cheese at Fort Saint Antoine. So what is it cool about Comté? And when Kendall and I got to go visit, we went to one of the fruitières. So these little cheese makers are dotted all throughout the little towns throughout the countryside here. So in the center of town, there's a little cheese maker called a fruitière, and then around that is where all the farming was happening. The milk of a handful of farmers would come to that fruitière. They'd make 2, 4, 8 wheels of this cheese a day. And then eventually, after it ages there for a certain period of time, it would go into these more larger facilities for longer maturation. And so Marcel Petit, they actually age all their products in this old fort called Fort Saint Antoine. All the barracks were built below ground, and so they got this really great humidity and temperature control, just designed right into these really
If and
old
when you can, go
buildings.
visit it. In fact, I have a little claustrophobia and I couldn't do some of it, but you can walk through these itty bitty little tunnels to like keep going and then peering at hundreds and hundreds of...
They probably have 100,000 wheels at a time sitting in this facility.
There's nothing like being in a cheese cave that has that many wheels that are aging. And when you think of the price tag that goes with it, and like if something happened or a natural disaster, how much money you would lose from that inventory. John has failed to mention one really important thing, that if you ask either John or I our favorite cheeses, we rarely will answer, truly because it's just, what do I crave at the time? Is it 107 outside, or is it 60 degrees? What am I drinking with it? And so our favorite cheese changes with the weather. That being said, if you ask for John's island cheese, like you're going to be stuck on an island for the rest of your life and you get one cheese, Johnny, what would you say?
I would say probably Comté.
I was like, are you going to change it up
I was gonna
after
say-
10 years of us being together?
I was going to try to throw you off.
I was like, what?
Velveeta, Velveeta would actually last. That block would last the rest of my life. Weirdly, but it's a non-cheese product. Comté,
It lasts because
as
we
long
don't
as
all
you're giving me
preserve
a new supply every couple of
All
months.
right. So the point is, this is John's first cheese love, is Comté.
Yeah, it is.
And my favorite part about visiting there is they even have these museums dedicated to both Comté and Gruyere. And they've identified, I should know this, but it's like 106.
108, I
Okay, 108 flavor profiles in a wheel. And when these are graded, like they have every wheel and batch is graded, and it has to meet a certain certain quality or number scale to get a certain color label. So like these that you're getting are green label Marcel Petit Comté. There's a brown label, which means it's still a great cheese. It just didn't meet as high of standards. And then there's more of a table cheese label. Then there's other Comtés which are made but aren't sold under the name Comté AOC. They're sold under just a cheese label because they don't, for some reason, meet that category of taste. And they taste everything from like leather to herbs to different wildflowers to what are all the, it's beautiful.
Leather, cotton, vanilla. There's all sorts of
I
flavors.
love that you repeat what I just said. But
Oh, did you say all those?
yeah, so I have this dream of making this
You're the
cheese
best.
museum
You're
here.
the best.
I have a dream of making a cheese museum here in Austin. But I mean, right now I don't have
Did
like
you really
know,
say cotton?
a couple hundred. No, not cotton.
Okay, at least I got
I
one.
don't have a couple $100,000 plus just to pour into a museum that will never make any money. But there, if you get a chance, go into them. You get to interact with the smells and see it in this Comté flavor wheels, and it's just like a beautiful thing.
So, going back to the two cheeses, Gruyere and Comté, two of the differences, there's the recipes are slightly different, but two of the differences are, one is that the cows are different. So for Gruyere, they use Holstein, and for Comté, they use Montbéliard. And so there's a different, when you're talking about different breeds of animals, they create different flavor profiles. And then Comté is dry salted rather than immersed in brine, which actually then creates a different salt texture. So anyway, Marcel Petit selects these amazing wheels for us, and we are so blessed. So it's amazing. You should go visit all of these things. Go to a fruitiere, go see them make it, then go to where they age it, and then go eat a ton of it.
Okay, and we don't have the time for it tonight, but one of John's favorite things about this cheese is it really exemplifies economics, which I had to take 4 semesters of economics in college, and I'm an A+ student, and I like barely got a C in economics, so it's not my thing. But that being said, it's really a cooperative style of where everybody pools in these fruitières, pools their milk together and makes these huge wheels. So anyway, it's in about the AOC. It's just a beautiful case study on why there are name controls and how cheeses get the shape that they do. Everything that goes into it. It's not just an aesthetic, oh, I'm going to make this size of cheese.
It's like a love story. It
Okay.
makes me so happy.
So I paired, or the team paired this tonight with one of my favorite condiments in our shop. I saw somebody else loved it, Rachel and Amanda. This is American Spoon from Michigan, their apple onion jam. And what I love about it is this combination to me tastes like French onion soup. This cheese can often have like bouillon cube brothy notes to it. And so pairing it with the apple onion, you can do it. You had to talk a lot. I'm making you work more tonight. I had a perfect bite. We joke about the perfect bite. Anyway, we got to move on.
You saw more, though.
I paired it with the apple onion. Also, this is a rind that you can eat. It's a natural rind. Nothing has been added to this cheese. Is what it looks like when the cheese is salted on the outside, rubbed and patted down over and over in the time spent aging. And the rind often will go really well with some of your red wines and bring out that more earth soil note. So let's talk about the next one.
Barbara asked what I was eating out of the cup. This cup was the apple and onion jam. If you didn't get it, let us know so we can make sure that next time you get a little sample of it too. So sorry if that happened.
There
Super
should have been
delicious.
2 cups on
Two
your
cups.
plate. The strawberry jam and the apple
And the
onion
apple
jam.
onion. All right. Okay, so Mimolette. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
We got 2 more cheeses. This cheese is outstanding.
I'm surprised the team put it on the plate tonight, but it's, look, just to show you the difference in sizes so that you know everybody gets different love, okay? This cheese is one of the hardest freaking cheeses in the world to cut.
So this is cool
That was my
because
addition.
this is Lille France, Lille, is traditionally known for where this cheese started. So it's on the Belgium border, and it comes in a ball shape. So Edam is a Dutch cheese that comes in a ball shape that has this sort of Gouda-style sweetness flavor to it. And so they basically wanted to create a new French cheese that had that same look. It looks like a cannonball. It's pretty awesome, like a big round ball.
It's like logistically very hard to cut. It literally is like this, and it's super aged, so it's really hard. So just imagine you're trying to cut it, and it's rolling all over the place.
And so the cheese maker that we get ours from is actually from Normandy, where it traditionally has come from is in the northwest of France. This is coming from the northeast of France. This is coming from the northwest of France in the Normandy region. And what's cool is that area used to be like Europe's largest wetlands, and then the sea retreated. So all these minerals and great salt content got deposited into the ground, into the soil there. And so the cows are eating this really rich, intense grass. And the humidity, because it's close to the coast, stays fairly high. And so it makes amazing cheeses. This is where Camembert de Normandy comes from, one of the world's greatest cheeses also. And so Isigny is the producer. It's not on your menu because it had never been added into the database until
Human
today.
error.
I finally added it after so many years.
Oh, Mimolet?
The actual producer on there. And so anyway, it's a super cool product. They use annatto. So when it was first being made, they used carrot juice to give it this distinct flavor profile, or look rather. And now they use annatto, which is comes from the seed of a achiote tree. It's a flavorless additive that just gives it this really deep orange hue, which is super cool.
So when you see orange cheddar or white cheddar in the United States, one just has annatto added into it. And it's flavorless, so it doesn't impact the flavor, but that's what gives it that dark hue.
That's good tonight.
Yeah.
That's really good. The other thing is that in the making of this cheese, they sometimes add cheese mites, or they don't add them. It's the joke. What came first, the cheese or the cheese mite? Chicken or the egg? But cheese mites are encouraged, and they help give it an even sweeter flavor profile. I read today when I was doing extra research, they called them mini affineurs. I thought that was a really cute term for. Anyway, super cool. But it was delicious.
They do the work, these cheese mites. So when we get it and we cut this cheese down, just the little facts behind the scenes, and I know we're pushing time here, so apologies to anybody who has a 7 o'clock Zoom to jump on. But the cheese mites actually do the work of kind of breaking this down for you and processing this cheese. When we're cutting it, though, we have to brush off the mites, and cheese mites will also get on cheddar and sometimes very undesirably on cheddar. But it will be on the outside of this cheese. We have to brush it off, cut the cheese, cut it all up, and then completely wipe down our station. Why? Because those cheese mites can jump to other cheeses, and whereas they are encouraged and part of this cheese and the flavor, you don't want them on your other cheeses. You're still talking. Today we paired this with cornichon pickles, and so this is a great cornichons are known as a French product. They're little pickles that are seasoned with like mustard seeds and other things. Oddly enough, I always assumed cornichons came from France, and then lo and behold, most of all the cornichons we can find come from India. Yeah. But colonization.
It's so good.
Kind of worked out.
That brightness, that acidity, the vinegar really
to cut that cheese
instantly kind of cleans up the palate, and you get this really nice play off each other. That's always a home run pairing right there.
Okay, and I also mixed in some apple onion jam because again, it's my favorite.
Because you're allowed to. All of you can mix things up. There's no right way to eat tonight. You're just hanging out with the Antonellis.
Okay, so one time I had heard that Comté is the queen of cheese, but the other cheese I'd heard was the queen of cheese.
We've had a lot of kings and queens tonight. Maybe we'll get rid of.
It's like France's history.
Let's call them something else, something more democratic. We'll have to come up with that next time.
Plebeian, like of the people?
Of the people. Cheese for the people.
You're trying to dismantle cheese hierarchy.
Yeah, cheese power language.
All right, I like it.
Let's do that. So this is Roquefort. This is historically significant cheese. The earliest mention of it was from 1000 AD, somewhere in there. And it was a cheese. The lore goes that a young shepherd was spending some time watching his flock, sitting in the shade inside this entryway of a cave, and he was distracted by by a shepherdess, a beautiful woman. Some of my team say there was a wolf involved, and I will leave that. That's for a different day. The shepherd left his lunch behind, ran off after this shepherdess,
Which was bread and a piece of cheese.
and then he came back later, sometime later, and found the product there. And he decided to eat it, thankfully, because, and he didn't die, thankfully. And he ate another bite, and somebody else ate it too. And that's when the mold, this Penicillium roqueforti, really became a viable thing. It populated this cave. And so the milk for this cheese comes from the Lacone sheep, and they're beautiful animals. And the mold. Excuse me. We're getting some information from our daughter that may or may not be like a telephone fell in a toilet bowl or something. I don't know yet. We'll figure that out later after the event. But basically, the mold comes from the bread, and so even to this day, Papillon, the producer that you're eating tonight, for 1 week in September of every year, they bring in their baker, and they have their own ovens, and he bakes the bread, and it's this char. They char the outside, they make it black, but the inside is still soft and moist. And that bread is put inside these caves, these florets. They're like perfectly designed for cheese aging, it turns out. They put the bread in there, and the mold inoculates the bread, and that's how they actually harvest the mold that they then use inside of in the cheese making process. I just think that it's amazing how they came upon this.
Did you also say that all Roquefort comes from only one of 7 families?
I didn't get there yet.
Okay, because I didn't know. I got distracted. Sorry. Elia said, "Excuse me, did you get a cheese plate just for us? Because she's bad I didn't save her a piece." After the comment about one of our phones might be in a toilet. But again, we'll figure that out. So one of only 7, Roquefort has to be aged to be name controlled and called Roquefort cheese in these certain caves. And I have not gotten to go travel and see it yet. And so this is on my cheese pilgrimage list. But as I've been told, it's basically just like chain links. I imagine it's like Cabrales. It's like chain links are just up in certain areas that designate.
They're iron bars.
Okay.
Old iron.
And it just separates, and there's only 7 different producers. So all the Roquefort in the world, some are by bigger producers, some are by smaller, but it's really only 7 producers that control all of the Roquefort. And this one is Papillon from France. We got a question about what's the difference in blue and Roquefort. And Roquefort is a blue cheese. So blue is the family, and Roquefort is the specific style underneath it.
Rachel, good job with that. Bleu de Vin, Roquefort, Pomme d'Ambert, Stilton, Gorgonzola, they're all blue cheeses.
And for those jumping off, what's our chocolate
And
tonight?
what's those jumping off? This chocolate is Tiangang by Maru. Maru, we were the first company in the U.S. to bring Maru in and sell. They were the first Vietnamese bean to bar chocolate maker, chocolatiers.
French-Vietnamese company in Vietnam.
Yeah. And they make outstanding flavored chocolate that really showcase the terroir, the flavor of the bean in that time, in that place, in the soil. It's amazing. Also on the bucket list to
We
travel
love
to.
blue cheese and chocolate. If you're drinking a big, beautiful, bold red, this is the flavor pairing to go for it. Also, because blue cheese is so salty, this is typically the one that you do with fortified dessert wines, like port or sherry. I loved it. I put the Roquefort back with my strawberry jam from our cheese number 2, and that's a classic pairing for me. It's not like a classic pairing, but it's a delicious pairing that I love because the sweet and salty.
It could go with almost anything.
Yeah.
On this plate tonight, the apricot, the cornichon, this cheese is tasting great. Extra salty, really creamy and rich. That sheep's milk, boy, that sheep milk is good.
So you guys and gals and everyone and y'all, you have just done Taste of France. A celebration of French cheeses. Thanks, John, for carrying the weight tonight. I kind of had fun for the first time just being over here like I'm just going to eat cheese.
I think you're awesome. I think you did great.
I think you're awesome. And I learned some things tonight from you. So we kind of volley, if you can't tell beforehand, like, quick, who's going to prep?
Unfiltered by the Antonellis.
But I think what that speaks to is that when we first opened a shop over 10 years ago, we said, who are we? We're not in culinary. We're not trained chefs. And then we're like, wait, just remember who we are and be true to ourselves. We are people who are in love with food, love talking about it, want to learn more. Cheese, everybody loves cheese. We just want to make people happy. And let's just go on a journey of cheese and invite people along with it. So it's not that we know everything, it's that we've learned a whole lot and we are learning more every day and then just inviting people along in the journey with us. So as our appreciations to you and our sign out, yay, Casey, I'm so glad you think that the team did awesome on the picks tonight. Casey, I think, picked everything of our team, and so I will pass it on to her. You guys are awesome. I see some salutes there.
Have you decided what your last bite tonight is going to be? I think I just figured it out.
Oh, okay. So you guys, we have a date thing that's like, save your last perfect bite and don't touch somebody else's last bite.
That's going to be mine.
That's
tonight.
mine.
Oh, yeah. Good job, honey.
It's like we were meant to be together.
So, before we get off, do you want to see what everybody else's favorites were?
Yes. All right, guys and gals, tell us. Blow it up. We want to see the chat box break on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
So let's go through your menu here. Hopefully you got it. But you can vote 7 times.
Up to 7.
You know what? You can vote 10. I don't know how you're going to do that.
No,
but
you can vote 10 times.
Let's not put rules on people. So give us your heart emoji or the weird one which holding the heart. Try not to push the mad emoji. I never know why somebody pushes the mad emoji. But tell us which one your favorites are. Is it number 1, Brie de Nangy? Whose favorite was Brie?
Oh, hey, Dawn. It's good to see you again.
Whose favorite was Briat Savarin? Oh, y'all, that tonight was amazing. Whose favorite is Epoisse? Ow, ow, ow. I like the stank.
Stanky.
All right, whose favorite? All about that stank. Whose favorite was Chabrin? John's like, I can't believe you just said that. All right, whose favorite is Comte?
Katie said number 2 and number 3.
Oh.
Mim says Roquefort.
Okay, I hope you're yelling when
Dawn
we're
is
talking about
Briat Savarin.
Mimolette. Who's
Woo!
Mimolette? Give me some emoji
We got an
icons.
applause.
And last but not least, Roquefort. Who's taking the blue?
There's a couple Roquefort. I don't see a Chabrin yet. I'm going to give Chabrin some love.
All right, we like all of our babies to get voted on. Okay, with that, you guys are helping us live our mission. It's do good, eat good. It's the people who make foods in a way that's great for the planet, their animals and their teams, delicious for us. When you support us tonight, we get to do the same for our team and our community. So thank you. Cheers to you. I hope you made it through what could have been a really tough Wednesday. Or maybe you rocked it today.
Maybe you crushed it like we just did.
We hope you lay down tonight, you put your head on the pillow, you give yourself a high five, and just say you made it through the day and you get a chance to get up and do it all over again tomorrow.